Nobody in this classroom realizes that the man looking at them with total disgust is the same fat loser they treated like garbage just months ago. Back then, he was the school's 300-pound punching bag, a guy who took every insult and every hit with a smile just to survive the day. But the bullies made a fatal mistake. They targeted the only person who loved him, sending his girlfriend to the hospital in critical condition. That day, the nice guy died. He spent months in a literal hell, transforming his body into a weapon designed for one thing: extinction. Now, he's back at school, and nobody recognizes the man standing in front of them. The bullies are still laughing in the back of the room, looking for their next victim, having no idea that the predator they created is finally ready to collect his debt. The hunt has officially begun, and trust me, they are not ready for what's coming. It all started on one ordinary morning, when some random nobody decided to walk into Soon's classroom and start collecting money, protection money, from students in a school. And when one of the guys in the class refused to pay, this collector did not just ask again. He beat him badly, brutally, the kind of beating that makes everyone in the room look away and pretend they are suddenly very interested in their desks. Now, standing nearby was a guy named Soon, and Soon, to his credit, could not just stand there and watch. So he did what any reasonable person would do in that situation. He took the sandwich he was eating and shoved it straight into the collector's mouth. Just like that. Problem solved. Except, of course, it was not solved at all. Because then, Hatchin walked in. Hatchin was Soon's girlfriend. Everyone expected her to come in, see the chaos, and try to calm things down. That is what girlfriends do, right? They step in, they say the right thing, they de-escalate. Except Hatchin did not de-escalate anything. She walked straight up to that collector, grabbed his arm, twisted it behind his back, locked his neck in a chokehold, and beat him so badly he could barely breathe. She did all of this with the kind of casual efficiency that suggested this was not her first time doing it. And let us be honest here, watching a girl dismantle a grown guy like that is not just impressive. It is terrifying. Kiziak, the leader of the group this collector belonged to, was not happy. Not happy at all. One of his guys had just been destroyed by a girl, and that kind of thing travels fast in a school. So Kiziak did what every coward with a little bit of power does. He sent someone to mess with Hatchin's uniform. Ink. Everywhere. And because everyone in that classroom was too afraid of retaliation to stand up and say what actually happened, there were no witnesses. None. But Soon was there. And Soon did something that nobody expected. He did not explode. He did not charge at Kiziak's crew. He walked up to Hatchin, took off his own shirt, draped it over her shoulders, and gently guided her out to go change. That was it. That was his response. No anger. No scene. Just quiet, steady care. And that is exactly what made Kiziak's guys nervous. They watched Soon leave the room, and they could not figure it out. Why was he so calm? Why did he not react? One of them even pointed it out loud, but Kiziak told them not to worry. He said that eventually Soon would come looking for them, and that they should just wait. He was right. Soon moved fast. He showed up at the spot where Kiziak's crew usually hung out, walked right in, and did not even flinch. The whole group was there. They outnumbered him, and they were all watching him like he had just walked into a cage of wolves. But Soon did not care. He went straight to Kiziak and laid it out simply. All Kiziak had to do was apologize to Hatchin and pay for a new uniform. That was it. That was the deal. Kiziak, of course, played dumb. He laughed it off, pretended he had no idea what Soon was talking about, and then stood up with this smirk on his face. He started tapping Soon's stomach, mocking him, testing him, seeing how far he could push before something snapped. One of Kiziak's guys lost his patience first. He stepped forward, called Soon every name in the book, and lunged at him. He never got close. One punch. That is all it took. One single punch. And the guy's face went completely sideways. Soon did not even celebrate. He just looked at the rest of them and said it out loud. He was going to have to deal with all of them. What happened next shook the entire school building. Kiziak's guy got up, bleeding, screaming at his friends to help him, and two more of them rushed in. The first one got kicked so hard he flew through the air and never touched the ground until Soon was done with him. The second one got picked up, thrown over Soon's shoulder, and slammed into the concrete. Same result. Different guy. Same outcome. By the end of it, 3 of Kiziak's men were on the ground, and Soon was the one breathing hard. He had given everything he had. His body was running on fumes. Kiziak watched the whole thing, and instead of being scared, he actually clapped. He genuinely applauded. And then he smiled that dangerous smile and stepped forward. He told Soon he looked tired. He offered him a deal. Kneel down. Apologize. And Kiziak would make his life in that school a whole lot easier. He even threw in a compliment, saying Soon had a kind heart, just like his girlfriend. Soon refused, calling Kiziak a loser who used other people to do his dirty work. And that is when Kiziak stopped being polite. He asked if Soon was trying to provoke him into throwing the first punch. And Soon did not wait for the answer. He lunged. He grabbed Kiziak around the waist and tried to force him to the ground. One clean takedown. One punch. That was the plan. Simple. Brutal. Effective. Except Kiziak was ready for it. The moment Soon locked on, Kiziak wrapped his legs around him and used his own momentum against him. In seconds, the roles reversed completely. And Kiziak was laughing. Actually laughing. Like this was exactly where he wanted things to end up. He tightened his grip around Soon's neck, and the air started disappearing from Soon's lungs. Soon could feel his consciousness slipping. He could not breathe. He could not move. He was trapped. And just then, Haechan appeared. She saw what was happening, and something inside her broke. She did not hesitate. She kicked Kiziak directly in the head with enough force to completely warp his face. Kiziak stumbled back, completely disoriented. And for a moment, he genuinely did not understand what had just happened. When he finally processed it, he turned to Haechan with rage in his eyes. He made threats. He grabbed her by the hair. But Haechan was not afraid. She looked up at him and asked him, calmly, if he had ever got hit by a girl before. Kiziak snarled at her. He was about to find out exactly how much force he could put behind a swing. He swung. Haechan moved like water. She dodged, closed the distance in a single step, lifted Kiziak clean off the ground, and slammed him into the concrete so hard the sound echoed off the walls. He did not get up for a long time. And when he finally tried to, Haechan was already on him. She locked his arm, twisted it behind his back, and started pulling. Kiziak was screaming. He was begging her to stop. He was saying anything, everything, just to make the pain stop. Haechan did not stop. She asked him what he did wrong. He listed everything. The ink on her uniform, the bullying, all of it. She kept pulling. Kiziak kept confessing. And finally, when she had extracted every single admission out of him, she let go. She turned to the rest of his crew and looked at every single one of them. Her message was clear. If any of them ever touched anyone again, they would not walk away in one piece. Then she turned to Cian, and her entire demeanor shifted. She became gentle. She told him to come with her to the medical room. Cian refused. He said he just needed to rest for a moment. Kiziak's second in command, a guy named Runsock, realized they had a problem. They had not finished collecting the money they were supposed to collect, and if their boss found out, there would be consequences. Kiziak snapped at him to be quiet and let him think. And then he muttered to himself, wondering how a girl could even do something like that. Later that day, when school was over, Haechan found Cian and immediately started checking on him. She could see it in his face. He looked pale. He looked like he was about to pass out. Cian tried to brush it off, but Haechan was not buying it. She even jumped on his back, riding him like he was a horse, and started lecturing him about how he fought like a child. She had been trying to get him to train in jiu-jitsu for months. He kept refusing. Cian turned away from her, clearly annoyed. He told her he did not need her worrying about him. He was not a little kid anymore. Haechan got quiet for a second. Then she got annoyed too. The two of them went back and forth like that all the way to the school gate. Neither one of them was going to be the first to back down. And in the end, Sun just walked off. He told Haechan he had something to do and could not walk her to her martial arts gym that evening. Haechan watched him leave. She only wanted to walk with him a little longer. That was all. When Cian got home, he pulled out his phone. He started typing a message to Haechan. He wanted to ask if she was okay. He wanted to say something, anything. But every time he started typing, he deleted it. He put the phone down, lay on his bed, and stared at the ceiling. He was frustrated with himself. He kept telling himself he was pathetic. But then, after a while, something in him settled. He pulled the blanket over his head and whispered to himself that everything would be fine tomorrow. Outside, the sky had gone completely dark, and then his bedroom door flew open. His father was standing there, out of breath, and the look on his face was one that Sun had never seen before. He was not angry. He was not scolding. He was terrified. He screamed Haechan's name. Cian did not fully understand what was happening yet, but something in his gut told him that the world had just shifted underneath him in a way that could not be undone. Haechan was in the hospital. She was lying in a bed, connected to an oxygen machine, her body covered in bruises, so deep and so severe that the doctors were not done assessing the damage yet. Outside the room, her parents were falling apart. Her father could barely stand. Her mother was shaking so badly, she could not form a single sentence. Soon arrived at the hospital in a state of complete panic. He had not even put on shoes. His shirt was soaked through with sweat, his breathing was ragged, and there was blood on his feet from running barefoot through the streets. He found Haechan's father and asked where she was. Where Haechan was, what happened to her? Her father could not answer. He just stared at the ground. Haechan's mother turned to Seon, tears streaming down her face, asking him what happened. What did this? Soon stood there, frozen, trying to piece together something that did not make any sense to him yet. Behind him, Soon's own father caught up, holding the shoes Soon had left behind. He handed them over and told his son to calm down and put them on. Soon's hands were shaking so badly, he could barely hold them. He started explaining. Haechan had left school at the same time as him that evening, but Soon had not walked her to her gym. He had told her he was busy, so she went alone. Just then, a man stepped forward and interrupted him. He showed a badge. He was a detective from the Criminal Investigation Unit. He pulled Soon aside, away from the family, and started asking questions. When was the last time Soon saw Haechan? Where were they? What time? Soon answered everything, but then he stopped and asked the detective why the Criminal Investigation Unit was involved. This was not just a simple assault case. The detective confirmed it. This was being investigated as a gang assault. Haechan had been found in an alley next to an office building. She had been beaten somewhere else and then dragged there, unconscious. The injuries on her face were consistent with being punched repeatedly, with the right side of her face taking the worst of it. But the most severe injury was to her left knee. The detective paused before explaining the rest. They believed the attacker had used a specific technique, a deliberate joint lock, designed to shatter the kneecap. Soon felt like the ground had been ripped out from under him. He could not process how this had happened so suddenly. And then something clicked in his mind. He remembered Kiziak. He remembered the way Kiziak moved, the way he fought, the technique he used when he pinned Soon down earlier that day. Soon looked the detective in the eye and told him. He asked if Kiziak was involved. He told him Kiziak had martial arts training, something called jujitsu. The detective noted it down and said he would factor that into the investigation. Then the door to Haechan's room opened. The doctor stepped out. Haechan's parents immediately rushed forward. The surgery had been successful. That was the first piece of good news anyone had heard all night. Haechan's mother broke down crying and thanked the doctor over and over again. But the doctor was not finished. The ligament in her left knee had been completely severed. With consistent rehabilitation, she would eventually regain full function. It would not affect her daily life in the long run. However, the doctor added something that landed heavier than any physical injury could. In cases like this, the psychological trauma is almost always worse than the physical damage. He recommended that the family pursue both physical and mental health treatment simultaneously. Haechan's father held his wife in silence. There was nothing else to say. Son was standing behind a wall the entire time. He heard every single word. When the conversation ended and everyone moved on, he pressed his back against that wall, covered his face with both hands, and held back everything that was threatening to pour out of him. That night, in the hospital, the room was dim and quiet. Everyone who had come to see Haechan was gathered around her bed, and not a single one of them said a word. They did not need to. The bruises on her face told the entire story. Her face was so swollen, so distorted, that she was almost unrecognizable. Son stood completely still. He stared at his best friend's face, and something inside him broke. He clenched his jaw so tight it hurt. He fought with everything he had to keep the tears from falling. And slowly, something changed in his eyes. The grief was still there, but underneath it, buried deep, something else was growing. Something cold, something that had teeth. A few days later, Son walked into the police station. He did not knock. He did not wait to be invited. He walked straight up to the officers handling the case and started demanding answers. He told them the alibis they had collected were fabricated. He asked them how long they had been investigating and why they had found nothing useful. He asked about the surveillance cameras. One of the officers, Officer Jiang, got angry. He told Son to watch his mouth and reminded him that the police were not dedicated solely to this one case. Another officer, Officer Na, calmed things down. He explained that the camera on the office building next to the alley where Haechan was found had been broken and it was already scheduled for repair. He told Son they were looking into the building and trying to gather footage from other cameras in the area. Son's eyes drifted to something on the desk. A file about the gold office building. Officer Na noticed where Son was looking and immediately closed it. He told Sun that if there were any updates, they would contact Hachin's family, and that Sun needed to stop coming to the station. Sun stood there for a moment, completely silent. Then he said it out loud. The school told him to talk to the police. The police told him they did not have enough evidence, and so Kasak was just walking around free. Officer Jiang bristled at the tone. Officer Na said nothing. Sun turned around. His face was blank, tired, and then he looked back over his shoulder, and his eyes were completely different. They were sharp. They were locked on something that no one else in that room could see. He told them he would handle it himself. Officer Jiang started to react, but Officer Na grabbed his arm and stopped him. After Sun left, Officer Na turned to his colleague and said something quietly. He told Officer Jiang that when he has a chance, he should look into what that kid was planning. That night, Sun was waiting outside the gold office building. It was dark. It had been dark for a while, but he was patient. He sat there, completely still, and waited. Eventually, Kasak came out. He was with his girlfriend, and they were both laughing, talking about how well everything had gone that evening. Runsak came out right after them with a girl of his own, and he was congratulating Kasak, telling him he looked incredible tonight. Kasak noticed Sun immediately, and Sun noticed them. Sun stood up slowly. He told them that he had been wondering if he was wrong about them being involved, but seeing them here, at this exact location, confirmed everything. He stepped closer. He called them every name he could think of. He wanted to know which one of them did this to Ha-Chin. Kasak's girlfriend reacted first. She was horrified. Runsak looked like he had seen a ghost. Kasak, on the other hand, smiled. He walked up to Sun casually, almost playfully, and asked how Sun knew he would be here. He asked if Sun had been waiting for him. Sun told him he owed Sun an explanation. Kasak tried to laugh it off one more time, but Sun did not let him finish. One punch. Clean. Devastating. Kasak went flying. Kasak's girlfriend screamed. Runsak panicked. Sun moved to Runsak next, and before Runsak could even process what was happening, he was on the ground, bleeding, with Sun still standing over him. But Kasak was already back on his feet. He came at Sun from behind, and this time he was not playing. He was not smiling. He was holding a piece of concrete in his hand. Sun turned just in time to see him coming. Kasak dodged Sun's punch, dropped low, and wrapped himself around Sun's legs. The momentum carried them both to the ground, and Kasak landed on top. Sun struggled. He tried to break free. He tried everything he had. But Kasak had him locked down completely, and then Kasak started hitting him, over and over. Each punch, landing exactly where it was supposed to. Sun's face was bleeding. Kasak grabbed Sun's arm and started bending it. He told Sun he was going to make him match his girlfriend. He called Sun worthless. Sun kept fighting, kept trying to resist, kept spitting defiance, even as his body gave out underneath him. Kasak laughed. He said he was going to break Sun's arm and see if Sun could still talk as much. But then, a voice cut through the darkness. It was calm, it was cold, and it did not belong to anyone who was supposed to be there. Kasak turned his head, and standing at the edge of the alley was a man. An older man, white hair, long and loose, and he was not wearing any clothes. Kasak stared at him, completely thrown off. He asked the man what he was doing, why he had no clothes on. The man did not answer that question. He simply told Kasak to let go of Sun now. Kasak did not move fast enough. The man stepped forward, and the energy in that alley shifted completely. Kasak could feel it. Something about this man was fundamentally different, something dangerous. Kasak released Sun's arm and stood up, but he tried to save face. He asked the man what business he had getting involved, and he pointed out that Sun had started the fight. The man did not even look at Kasak when he responded. He turned to Sun first, asked if he was okay, and told the rest of the group to disappear. Kasak's pride would not let him back down that easily. In a moment of reckless anger, he threw a punch at the man's shoulder. He shouted at him to mind his own business. The man glanced at Kasak. His expression did not change. He asked Kasak if he was curious about what the man was capable of. Kasak, despite the fear creeping into his chest, tried to act tough. He asked where the man had trained. The man lowered his stance slightly and told Kasak he was about to find out firsthand. Kasak swallowed. He tried to hold his ground. He asked what exactly that was supposed to mean. The man reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. Kasak, realizing what was happening, turned to Sun with pure venom in his voice. He threatened him. He told Sun that tomorrow at school, Sun was done. He was finished. The man told the police what was happening. A group of high school students was assaulting another student in an alley near an office building, and one of them had just threatened the victim on a live call. Kasak's face went white. He grabbed his crew and told them to run. They did not need to be told twice. Within seconds, they were gone, disappearing into the night. Like they had never been there at all. The alley went silent. Son was still on the ground, barely able to move, barely able to breathe. He looked up at the man who had just saved his life, and through the pain and the blood and the exhaustion, he managed to say thank you. His voice cracked when he said it. His eyes were wet. The man sat down next to him, and then, completely out of nowhere, he called Son a fat pig. Son blinked. He did not know what to say. He asked the man why he said that. The man looked at him with an expression that was almost amused. He told Son he knew who he was. He was Ha Jin's fat friend, the one she always showed him pictures of. Every single day, Ha Jin would show this man photos of Son, and now that the man was seeing him in person, he said Son looked even fatter than the pictures. Son did not have a response. His face turned red, and he just sat there in silence, absorbing it. The man shifted the conversation. He asked about Ha Jin. Was she still unconscious? Son nodded. He confirmed it. And then the man said something that stopped Son cold. He told Son that Kiziak was not the one who did this to Ha Jin. There was someone else involved. A whole group, in fact. Son's eyes went wide. He demanded to know how the man knew that. He asked if the man had proof, evidence, anything. The man shrugged. He said it was just a feeling. Intuition. Son sat there, stunned into silence. Intuition. That was it. That was his answer. The man reached into his pocket and pulled out a flyer. He held it right up to Son's face. It was a registration form for a jiu-jitsu gym. The man told Son something that would stay with him for a long time. He said that charging at Kiziak head-on 100 times would result in 100 losses. Every single time. If Son wanted to beat someone who played chess, he needed to learn how to play chess first. Son understood. The next day, Son stood outside the jiu-jitsu gym, staring at the entrance. He did the math in his head. Even if he pulled every single cent of his allowance, it was not going to be enough. But he decided to go in anyway, just to look around, just to see. Ha Jin had told him before that everyone at this gym was good people, kind people. He was in the middle of thinking about that when two voices came from right behind him, and both of them scared him half to death. Two men had walked up without him hearing a single footstep. They complimented his height, his build. They were genuinely impressed. Son, still rattled, asked who they were. They told him they were members of the gym. And then, without waiting for permission, they grabbed him by the arms and dragged him inside. Son tried to protest. He said he was not ready. They did not care. They shoved him through the door and started cheering like they had just brought home a trophy. Son looked around and immediately felt like he had made a terrible mistake. And then he noticed someone lying flat on the floor, in the middle of the gym, completely asleep, in the middle of the afternoon, on the training mat. One of the members walked over and started trying to wake him up, apologizing for the guy sleeping during the day. And when the man finally opened his eyes, Son recognized him immediately. It was the man from the alley, the one without clothes, the one who had saved his life. His name was Aeon. Son asked how someone could just fall asleep in the middle of a gym like that. Aeon barely seemed to register the question. When someone told him that a new member had arrived, Aeon looked at Son and immediately identified him. He told the others that this was Ha Jin's fat friend. The two members who had dragged Son and reacted like they had just met a celebrity. They had seen Son's photos before, the ones Ha Jin showed them every single day. And now, here he was in the flesh. Son, completely embarrassed, tried to back toward the door. He mumbled that he did not actually have enough money to join. But before he could leave, a voice from outside the door asked how much he was short. Son turned, and it was the gym's owner. The man asked again, how much did Son need? Son stammered that he was short a lot, and that he would come back another time. The owner kept offering discounts, and then one of the younger members spoke up. He had an idea. He said it would benefit everyone involved. The owner listened. The young member laid out a plan. He pointed out that Son had incredible height and bone structure. All he needed to do was lose weight. If they could document that transformation, it would be the single best advertisement the gym had ever produced. Jiu-jitsu as a sport, as a family, as a way to get in shape, to build confidence, to learn self-defense, and at the center of it all, a before and after story that no one could ignore. The room went silent for about half a second before everyone started talking at once. Even the owner, who had called this kid insane not 30 seconds earlier, was nodding along. The plan made sense. It was clean. It was compelling. It was exactly the kind of content that gets shared. Son tried to speak up. He tried to tell them that he had never agreed to any of this. Nobody listened. Within minutes, they had a full schedule laid out. 3 training sessions a day, aerobics, strength training, a strict diet. Aeon would handle the physical training. The young member would handle the marketing and promotion. 3 months. That was the timeline. The owner was practically glowing with excitement. He told everyone that the road ahead was going to be long and exciting. Sun tried one more time to slip out quietly. He made it about 3 steps before Aeon caught him by the back of his shirt and pulled him back. He told Son to go change and get ready. In moments like these, Son genuinely felt like he was dying. 3 months passed. After a grueling training session, the instructor finally called it a day. Son collapsed onto the gym floor, completely spent, gasping for air like he had just survived something apocalyptic. One of the other members sat down next to him and told him he had made incredible progress. Another one added that sparring with Son was genuinely exhausting now because of how tall he was. Someone else chimed in and reminded everyone about the 3-month weight loss project. And that is when everyone actually looked at Son properly for the first time in weeks. He was not the same person. The change was undeniable. His body had transformed. His jujitsu skills had sharpened to a level that surprised even the experienced members. Son smiled modestly and said he still had a lot of work to do, that this was just the beginning. But it was not just the beginning. It was already the result. His appearance had changed so drastically that the nickname they used to call him no longer applied. Not even close. Later that day, 2 older members sat together and talked about how fast Son had climbed the ranks. One of them joked that they were probably going to lose to him at the next tournament. The other one worried that the trainer had pushed him too hard. Someone else defended Son's progress by pointing out that it was the 2 of them who were simply not training hard enough. Everyone laughed. When the session officially ended and everyone gathered together, Aeon called Son over. He wanted to do a strength assessment. The idea of it made everyone nervous, Son included. Son curled up instinctively and asked if they really had to do it today. Aeon, looking completely drained, said he was too tired and wanted to go to sleep early. Son tried to use that as an excuse to skip it too. Aeon smiled gently and told him that if he skipped today, tomorrow's session would include everything he missed on top of everything already planned. Aeon straightened up immediately. He told Aeon that procrastination was a bad habit and that they should just get it done. After the assessment, the 2 of them headed to a park to finish up the remaining exercises. Son hung from a pull-up bar, his entire body shaking with the effort. Aeon counted out loud. Son pushed through every single rep while silently cursing the universe in every language he knew. When he finally dropped, he hit the ground hard and lay there, chest heaving. Aeon stepped up to the bar and started doing pull-ups like it was no different from breathing. Son watched him from the ground and muttered that not everyone was built like a superhuman. They trained until the sun went down. By the time the sky turned orange and the lights started fading, both of them were done. Son sat on a bench, eating ice cream out of a container with no shame whatsoever. Aeon sat next to him and pointed out that eating like that was going to undo all the progress they had made. Son did not care. He told Aeon that if he did not enjoy food, he would not have the energy to keep going. He asked Aeon if he wanted to try some. Aeon declined, but then the mood shifted. Aeon asked about Hajin. How was she doing? Son stopped eating. The spoon hung in the air for a moment before he lowered it back into the container. He said he did not know. He had not been able to reach her. Not since everything happened. The look on his face said everything his words did not. After the attack, Hajin did not wake up for 12 days. Her parents stayed at the hospital the entire time, barely sleeping, barely eating, just waiting. When she finally opened her eyes, Son ran to the hospital the moment he heard the news. But when Hajin saw him standing in the doorway of her room, she looked at him in a way that made him feel like he was not supposed to be there. It was not anger. It was not hate. It was something quieter, and somehow that made it worse. It was the look of someone who did not want to see anything that reminded them of what happened. And Son, for her, was exactly that. He left without saying a word. Her therapist later explained to the family that the psychological trauma had affected Hajin in ways that went far beyond the physical injuries. During her counseling sessions, she refused to see anyone outside of her immediate family. She did not want visitors. She did not want phone calls. She did not want reminders. A few weeks after that, Hajin and her family moved away from the neighborhood entirely. They relocated somewhere else to focus entirely on her recovery, both physical and mental. Aeon listened to all of it without interrupting. Then he asked if the police had said anything. Son's expression went flat. He said they told him the investigation was ongoing. He said it did not seem like there had been much progress at all. Aeon studied Son's face for a long moment. The way Son was staring into the distance, the way his jaw was set, the way his eyes had gone completely still. Aeon looked at Son and asked a question that hung in the air like smoke. Had Son found the people who did this? Was he planning something? Aeon's voice was steady, almost careful. He reminded Son that self-defense was one thing. Learning to protect yourself was understandable. But using martial arts to harm someone? That was disgraceful. That crossed a line that could not be uncrossed. Son did not respond. He could not. All he could manage, quietly, in his own mind, were 3 words. I am sorry. Aeon stood up, ready to leave. He told Son that this was as far as he could go with advice. In the end, Son was the one who had to decide how to live his own life. But the truth was, Son had already made his decision 3 months ago. The moment he walked into that gym, the moment he committed to the training, the moment he let the anger settle into something sharper and more dangerous, the decision had already been made. The break ended. School started up again for the new semester. On the first day back, Ki-suk stood in the school courtyard, talking to Run-suk. He reminded him that today was opening day, which meant they needed to be careful when collecting money. The rates had gone up again. It was almost hard to believe. Run-suk nodded. He said he would focus on collecting in the bathrooms. Ki-suk pointed towards Son's class and told Run-suk to make sure he collected from the fat kid too. Except, Son was not fat anymore. Son had not been to school in a while. He did not know if Son would even show up that day. The two of them kept talking, completely unaware that Son was walking right behind them, listening to every word. Inside the classroom, Ki-suk sat with his feet up on the desk, phone pressed to his ear, checking in with the others to see if they had finished collecting protection money yet. A girl from class walked up to him nervously and told him someone wanted to see him on the roof. Urgently, Ki-suk asked who it was. The girl blushed and stumbled over her words. She said she did not know, but that he was tall, had a great build, was handsome, and was completely different from Ki-suk. Ki-suk assumed it was his senior, down. The girl was not sure. Then she told Ki-suk to hurry up and go. Meanwhile, in the bathroom, a group of bullies had cornered a few students. One of them was trying to play it off like a joke. He told the victims not to make him angry, that people might think they were bullying them. He asked why would the victims not just accept their requests. Run-suk was in the middle of his speech when his phone rang. The voice on the other end told him that he couldn't come since Senior Down had called him, and he needed to go immediately. Run-suk hung up and told the others to focus. And that is when the bathroom door opened. Run-suk told him that if he needed to use the bathroom, he should use a different one. This one was occupied, but before the guy could finish his sentence, a voice cut him off. Long time no see. Run-suk turned around, completely unable to recognize who this was. He asked if this was a transfer student. He said it seemed like this person did not know who he was dealing with. Soon stepped forward and told the students behind the bullies to leave. He said he was responsible for cleaning the bathroom anyway, so why were there so many bugs in here today? One of the guys in the gang stepped forward. He asked Soon what he was talking about. He called him a brat, told him he was done for, said that just because Soon was a little taller did not mean he could act tough. Soon grabbed the guy by the hair, calmly, almost gently, and confirmed it. That was exactly right. And then, without hesitation, Soon punched him directly in the face. The guy dropped to the ground, foaming at the mouth, unconscious. The other stood there, frozen, completely unable to process what had just happened. Soon shouted at them to get out, but they were too scared to move. Finally, all at once, they bolted out of the bathroom. Run-suk tried to grab one of them as they ran past, asking where they were going. But before he could catch anyone, Soon kicked him directly in the side, sending him flying into the wall with a massive crash. One of Run-suk's friends got angry and charged at Soon. Soon dodged easily, then drove his fist into the guy's ribs. The guy screamed in pain. Another one with green hair rushed in desperately, but the result was no better. Soon grabbed him by the collar, yanked him backward, and slammed him onto the floor. Soon was not done yet. The guy with green hair looked up in terror as Soon's fist came down again, clean and precise, right into his body. Run-suk was panicking now, seeing someone this strong appear out of nowhere. He stammered, asking who Soon was, what this had to do with anything. Soon did not answer. He charged forward, grabbed Run-suk by the throat, and slammed him against the wall. Run-suk was shaking, begging for his life. Soon finally spoke, his voice ice cold. He told Run-suk to deliver a message to Ki-suk. Run-suk's face turned red, struggling to breathe, barely able to get the words out. He asked what the message was. Soon told him simply, The warm-up was done. It was time for a rematch.